Every single day, whether you realize it or not, you are making entries into a personal ledger, your habit ledger, each thought you entertain, each decision you make, each action you take. It's all recorded. You're either making a deposit into your success or a debit against your potential. Some people wonder why they feel stuck, why they keep chasing goals but never arrive. It's not luck, it's not fate, it's the quiet math of their daily habits. Their deposits and debits are out of balance. Success doesn't show up overnight, it accumulates, it compounds through invisible acts of consistency, discipline, and belief. The truth is your future is being built right now in small, unseen moments in how you think, how you react, how you show up when no one's watching. And the most dangerous illusion of life is believing your small choices don't matter, because they do. Every cup of water you pour into your day is either feeding your fire or extinguishing it. So today I want to take you on a journey to look at your life like a ledger, to audit the habits that build you and expose the ones that break you. Because the reality is simple, the world doesn't pay you for what you intend to do. It pays you for what you've trained yourself to do every single day. By the end of this message, you'll understand one truth, that success is not emotional, it's transactional. You make deposits of focus, faith, and effort, and in return, life gives you growth, peace, and fulfillment. So stay with me till the end, because if you're willing to listen, if you're willing to be honest, this talk might just reset the balance sheet of your entire life. You see, life isn't random. It's not chaos, it's not luck. Life is structure. It's a system that quietly measures every move you make, every thought, every choice, every decision you take in a moment of strength or weakness. It's being recorded in what I call your habit ledger. You may not see it, but it's there. It's keeping track. Most people don't realize this. They think success is built by one big decision, one lucky break, one opportunity that changes everything. But that's not how life works. Success doesn't come in explosions. It comes in deposits. Small, consistent, intentional actions that you make every single day. Every time you choose growth over comfort, every time you push yourself when it's easier to quit, every time you invest your energy into something that builds you, that's a deposit. And those deposits compound over time. But here's the truth, most people ignore. Your life doesn't just count the good, it also counts the bad. Every time you make an excuse, every time you waste a day, every time you talk yourself out of doing what you know you need to do, that's a debit. And just like in a financial ledger, when your debits outweigh your deposits, your account goes negative. That's when people say they feel stuck, unmotivated, lost. It's not because they're broken. It's because their balance sheet of habits has fallen into debt. Think about this for a moment. If you woke up tomorrow and checked your emotional bank account, what would you see? Are you overdrawn on promises you made to yourself? Are you in deficit because of the energy you've wasted on fear, comparison, or procrastination? Or have you been steadily investing even when no one was watching? Every choice you make is either building equity in your future or eating away at your potential. The world rewards people who understand the simple truth. Every decision compounds. If you make decisions that serve your growth, your confidence compounds. If you make decisions that drain you, your self-doubt compounds. It's the same law, just in different directions. I want you to imagine your life as a massive ledger, a clean white page divided into two columns. On one side, there are your daily deposits. Waking up early, learning something new, staying disciplined, eating right, showing gratitude, keeping promises, staying focused. On the other side, there are your debits, mindless scrolling, toxic habits, skipping commitments, reacting emotionally, breaking promises, giving up too soon. Now ask yourself which column is getting more entries every day, because what you repeatedly write in those columns will eventually define your identity. The ledger doesn't lie. You can post online, talk about your goals, dream about success, but your ledger only records what you actually do. And that's the hard truth most people don't want to face. They talk about wanting success, but their daily actions show they're investing in comfort. They say they want peace, but they make daily deposits into stress, comparison, and distraction. The ledger is honest, brutally honest, because it doesn't measure what you want. It measures what you practice. You can't cheat your own habits. You can't fake consistency. And that's actually the most freeing realization you can ever have, because it means you're in full control. You can start making new deposits today. You can rewrite your balance sheet at any moment. No matter how many debits you've made in the past, the ledger resets with every decision you make from this moment on. See, your habits don't just determine your results. They define your relationship with yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one, you build trust internally. You're telling your subconscious mind, I follow through, I'm reliable, I can count on me. And that kind of self-trust becomes the foundation for confidence, momentum, and power. But when you keep breaking those promises, when you tell yourself you'll change but never do, you lose that internal trust. You start doubting your own word, and that's the most dangerous debt you can ever owe. You've got to stop living like your choices don't matter. They do. Every small act, whether positive or negative, is a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. Every morning you hit snooze, you're casting a vote for procrastination. Every time you push yourself to move, to focus, to follow through, you're casting a vote for discipline. Over time, the votes add up. They shape who you are. You're not the result of what you occasionally do. You're the result of what you repeatedly do. And repetition, whether positive or negative, is the currency that builds your identity. The beautiful part is no one controls your deposits but you. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need to wait for motivation. You just need to make one small deposit right now in this moment, because when choice one can begin to shift your entire balance sheet. And when you start to stack those wins, when you begin to see that your life responds to discipline, to intention, to energy, you'll realize something profound. Life has always been keeping score. And the moment you start taking your ledger seriously, that's the moment life starts paying you back with results, confidence, and freedom. Because the truth is, your life is a ledger. And every choice counts. The biggest illusion most people live with is the idea that success happens suddenly, that one day everything just clicks. They think there's a magic moment when their life transforms, when all the work pays off at once. But that's not how it works. Success is never a single leap. It's a series of small steps, invisible to everyone but you. It's those small deposits that no one sees, the ones you make when you're tired, when you're doubtful, when no one's cheering for you. Those are the investments that create the biggest dividends. You see, people often overestimate the power of a single big action and underestimate the power of steady, consistent effort. They think if they just work hard for a few days or a few weeks, they'll get massive change. But lasting success isn't built in bursts of motivation. It's built in rhythm. It's built in repetition. It's built in the small deposits you make every single day. Think about it like this. A tree doesn't grow by being watered once a month with a bucket of water. It grows because it's fed a little every day. The roots deepen, the trunk strengthens, the branches expand slowly, quietly, patiently. You may not notice the growth in a week, but over months and years, it becomes unstoppable. That's exactly how your habits work. Every small act of discipline, waking up early, reading that extra chapter, finishing what you start, those are seeds being planted in the soil of your future. You won't see the reward immediately. In fact, sometimes it'll feel like nothing's happening, but underneath the surface, your consistency is taking root. The small deposits are working in silence long before they produce visible results. The problem is most people quit too soon. They get impatient with the process because they don't see the results fast enough. They think their deposits aren't paying off, so they stop making them. But growth doesn't announce itself. It compounds. The results don't come gradually and evenly. They come all at once after months or years of invisible deposits. That's why you can't judge your progress by what you see. You have to trust what you're building. You've got to stop chasing big, dramatic change and start committing to small, intentional deposits. Because here's the truth. The small things are the big things. Every deposit builds not just your future, but your identity. Every time you do something difficult when you don't feel like it, you're reinforcing a message that you're someone who follows through, someone who doesn't quit, someone who can be trusted. Those are the real dividends of consistency. Imagine two people start the same goal today. One gives massive effort for a week and burns out. The other gives steady effort every day for a year. Who wins? Always the second one, because the first one relies on emotion while the second one relies on systems. The first one waits for motivation. The second one builds momentum. Motivation fades. Systems grow. And momentum, once built, becomes unstoppable. That's why you need to focus on the deposit, not the outcome. The outcome will take care of itself. Your job isn't to predict when the results will come. It's to keep feeding your progress account every time you do something aligned with your purpose. No matter how small, you're increasing your balance of strength, confidence, and resilience. And the day will come when you'll look back and realize all those small deposits were never small. They were everything. What's powerful about small habits is how they reshape your entire identity. When you start doing something consistently, your mind begins to accept it as who you are. You're no longer someone trying to get in shape. You're an athlete in training. You're no longer someone trying to be disciplined. You're a disciplined person. That's how identity shifts happen, not by trying to become something someday, but by living at one small deposit at a time today. The beauty of this approach is that anyone can start. You don't need money, talent, or perfect timing. You just need a willingness to start small and stay steady, because it's not what you do once that changes your life. It's what you repeat. You don't need to run 10 miles today. You need to walk 1 mile every day until walking becomes natural, and then running becomes possible. You don't need to meditate for an hour. You need to sit for 5 minutes and learn to quiet your mind. Small steps, small wins, small deposits. That's how giants are built. And let me tell you something, the real power isn't in the act, it's in the decision. Every time you choose to make a deposit, you strengthen the part of you that refuses to be ordinary. You reinforce the voice that says, I don't need to see results right now to know I'm growing. You're training patience, you're training faith, you're training mastery. That's why the people who look like overnight successes never really are. They've been making small deposits for years, long before anyone noticed. What you see as a sudden rise is just the compound effect of thousands of quiet decisions stacked together. You can't fake that. You can't buy that. You have to live it. So if you want a better life, stop asking for massive change and start asking yourself, what's one deposit I can make today? Because it's not the size of your actions that defines your success. It's the consistency of them. One deposit today, another tomorrow, another the day after that. Before you know it, you've built a life that pays you back in confidence, clarity, and freedom. Small deposits, big dividends. That's how success compounds. There's something most people don't like to talk about when it comes to success. The withdrawals, everyone wants to talk about building habits, making deposits, staying positive, staying disciplined. But what about the things that drain your energy, your focus, your momentum? What about the habits that quietly pull you backward while you think you're moving forward? Those are the debits, the hidden costs of your choices. And if you don't get honest about them, they'll bankrupt your potential. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you're not just depositing good habits, you're also making withdrawals through bad ones. Procrastination, overthinking, negative self-talk, wasting time on distractions, surrounding yourself with people who drain your energy instead of fueling your vision. These are the daily debits that silently rob you of power. You can be putting an effort in one area and losing all your progress in another simply because you're not paying attention to the leaks. Most people don't fail because they don't work hard. They fail because their debits outweigh their deposits. They're busy but not productive. They're moving but not progressing. They spend all day reacting instead of creating. And at the end of the day, they wonder why they feel exhausted, unfulfilled, and stuck. It's because their energy is being spent on the wrong transactions. You've got to start looking at your life like a business that matters, because it does. If a company kept spending money recklessly, ignoring where it's losing profit, it wouldn't last long. Your life works the same way. Every time you indulge in a bad habit, every time you surrender to a distraction, every time you give your attention to negativity, you're making a withdrawal. The problem is, most people don't audit their habits. They just keep spending energy as if it's unlimited. You have to get brutally honest with yourself. What's stealing your focus? What's consuming your mental bandwidth that gives you nothing in return? Sometimes it's not even big things. It's the small, repeated leaks. Checking your phone every few minutes. Arguing about things that don't matter. Saying yes when you know you should say no. Doubting yourself instead of taking the next step. Those are tiny debits, but they add up fast. And here's the truth. Every debit doesn't just cost you time, it costs you confidence. Every time you break a promise to yourself, even a small one, you weaken the trust you have in your own word. That's why people lose momentum. Not because they're incapable, but because they've subconsciously stopped believing in themselves. When your actions don't match your intentions, your mind starts keeping score. And it remembers every overdraft. So many people are walking around feeling like they've lost their fire, but what they've really lost is their integrity with themselves. They keep saying, I'll start tomorrow. I'll change next week. I'll get serious when things calm down. But life doesn't wait. Every delay is another debit. Every excuse is another withdrawal. You can't grow your future while you keep financing your comfort. You've got to decide that your potential is too valuable to waste on behaviors that don't serve it. It's not enough to work hard. You have to work clean. You have to protect your focus like it's currency, because it is. Every minute of attention is $1 from your energy account. When you spend it on gossip, negativity, or fear, you're left with nothing to invest in your goals. But when you spend it intentionally on learning, growth, and action, it multiplies. That's why awareness is the beginning of transformation. You can't change what you don't measure. The moment you start tracking where your time, thoughts, and energy go, you'll see patterns. And once you see them, you can change them. The most successful people aren't just good at making deposits. They're ruthless about cutting debits. They protect their mornings, their mindset, and their energy like it's sacred, because they know it is. You've got to become the guardian of your own potential. Audit your environment. Who do you spend your time with? What do you feed your mind? What conversations are you entertaining? Every environment is either charging you or draining you. You can't live a high performance life while surrounding yourself with low energy habits. And don't make the mistake of thinking the small debits don't matter. The small things you tolerate today become the big problems tomorrow. You skip one workout and it feels harmless until it becomes a pattern. You procrastinate on one project and suddenly everything's behind. You allow one negative thought to grow and it becomes a belief. Debits compound just like deposits do, only in the opposite direction. But here's the good news: awareness gives you control. The moment you recognize where the leaks are, you can stop them. You can take back control of your attention. You can start replacing those withdrawals with better choices, choices that restore your focus and feed your strength. So start by asking yourself one simple question: what's draining me? Be honest. Is it a habit, a person, a pattern, or an environment? Once you identify it, make the decision to cut it off. Not someday, now, because every day you delay, you're letting another debit hit your account. There's no freedom in avoiding the truth. The only freedom is in facing it, in admitting that some of your own choices have been stealing from you. And the moment you take responsibility for that, you reclaim your power. You shift from being a victim of your circumstances to being the manager of your future. Stop letting the debits drain your greatness. Stop financing your comfort with your potential. Audit your life, take ownership, and protect your energy like your dreams depend on it, because they do. Because every excuse, every distraction, every wasted moment is a debit that drains your greatness. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in life. Once you have it, it feels like nothing can stop you. Everything flows, everything aligns, everything moves forward almost effortlessly. But before that momentum is built, it feels like pushing a giant rock uphill. Every step is heavy. Every action feels small. Every effort seems to take more than it gives back. Yet that's exactly how momentum is born, through the consistent, repeated deposits of small, positive habits that eventually create a force so strong it becomes unstoppable. Most people underestimate how much power there is in small beginnings. They get discouraged when they don't see immediate results, forgetting that every habit is like striking a match. The first few times, the flame burns out quickly, but if you keep striking, if you keep showing up, eventually the fire catches. Once it does, it begins to spread. And that's what momentum is, the fire, consistent effort, meeting the oxygen of time. You have to understand something. Momentum doesn't happen to you, you build it. It's not luck, it's not motivation, it's not magic. It's built by repetition, by doing the right things even when they don't yet seem to be working. When you go to the gym on the days you don't feel like it, when you keep studying even when you don't see progress, when you show up again and again despite setbacks, those actions are not wasted. They're compounding, they're storing energy in motion. They're creating traction that eventually turns into momentum. What's beautiful about momentum is that once it starts, it feeds itself. It's like a flywheel. At first, it takes tremendous effort to get it spinning. It resists you. It's slow, heavy, frustrating. But with every push, you add more energy. You might not see much movement at first, but every turn makes the next one a little easier. And then, at some point, something shifts. The resistance gives way to rhythm. That's the moment everything changes. What was once hard now feels natural. What was once effort now feels effortless. That's the reward of consistency. You can't buy momentum. You can't skip the hard part. It's the price you pay in the early stages that earns you the freedom later. Too many people want the feeling of momentum without paying for the discipline that builds it. They start something, feel the initial spark, then quit when it gets hard, not realizing they were only inches away from breakthrough. The truth is, the hardest part of any transformation is the beginning, when you're investing effort with little to no return. That's where most people give up. But if you can push through that initial resistance, momentum will eventually take over and carry you farther than you imagine. You've probably experienced it before, maybe in your fitness, your business, your personal growth. At first, you had to force yourself to act. You had to fight the resistance, the self-doubt, the fatigue. But after a while, you began to crave the progress. You started to look forward to the discipline. You didn't need external motivation anymore because you had built internal drive. That's momentum. And once you taste it, you'll never want to live without it again. But momentum isn't just about consistency. It's about alignment. When your habits match your goals, when your actions align with your purpose, the energy multiplies. It's not enough to move. You have to move in the right direction. You can be working hard and still going nowhere if your effort is scattered. But when your daily deposits are focused, when they feed your mission instead of your ego, every action compounds into something powerful. That's why clarity matters. You can't build momentum towards something vague. You have to know what you're building, why you're building it, and what it will mean when you get there. Purpose gives direction to your effort. Without it, even the best habits lose meaning. But when you know your why, even the smallest deposit feels significant because you know it's moving you towards something that matters. Momentum also protects you. Once you build it, it becomes your shield against doubt, fear, and distraction. It creates a rhythm that's hard to break. When you've been consistent long enough, missing a day feels uncomfortable because it goes against who you've become. That's how you know you've crossed the line. When discipline isn't something you have to force, it's something you live by instinct. And don't forget, momentum works both ways. Just as positive habits build forward motion, negative ones build reverse momentum. The longer you stay stuck in bad patterns, the harder it becomes to stop them. That's why awareness is key. You need to know whether the momentum in your life is carrying you upward or dragging you down. Because energy always moves. The question is in which direction. The secret is to keep your foot on the gas even when things start working. That's where many people fail. They get some results and then slow down, forgetting that momentum fades if you stop feeding it. Consistency isn't just about starting strong, it's about staying steady long after the excitement fades. The moment you stop investing in your habits, the energy you built begins to dissipate. Success doesn't need massive effort. It needs sustained effort. And when you finally realize that your habits have created a force that carries you forward naturally, when your focus sharpens, your confidence grows, and your results multiply, you'll see that it was never about luck. It was always about the deposits, the quiet, repetitive, unseen acts that built something greater than motivation. They built momentum. Because once good habits align with clear goals, they create the unstoppable force of growth. And that's the power of momentum. Every single one of us has made mistakes. We've all built habits that didn't serve us, allowed distractions to run our lives, and created patterns that pulled us away from who we wanted to become. But here's the truth. Your past habits don't define your future. They inform it, they reveal it, but they do not control it. You have the power right now to rewrite your ledger, to take every debit you've ever made, every mistake, every wasted day, every missed opportunity, and turn it into a deposit. The ability to rewire your habits is the most powerful form of freedom you'll ever experience. Most people think change has to be dramatic, that you have to destroy your old life to create a new one. But transformation isn't about erasing who you were. It's about upgrading who you are. It's about replacing the habits that drain you with the ones that serve you. You can't delete the past, but you can use it as leverage. You can take every lesson from your mistakes and use it to fuel your next decision. because pain is only wasted when it's not used. Rewiring your ledger starts with one simple truth: awareness is everything. You can't change what you don't notice. So the first step is an action. It's honesty. You have to take a good, hard look at your patterns and say, where am I working against myself? It's uncomfortable, yes, but that discomfort is the door to transformation. You can't improve a system you refuse to acknowledge is broken. So start by being radically honest about what you've been doing, not to judge yourself, but to free yourself. Maybe you've been spending hours scrolling through social media, comparing your life to everyone else's highlight reel. Maybe you've been feeding your doubts more than your dreams. Maybe you've been saying yes to things that steal your energy just because you're afraid to disappoint people. All of these are habits, not random behaviors, but practiced patterns. And here's the powerful thing: anything practiced can be unpracticed. Anything learned can be unlearned. The human brain is not fixed, it's flexible, it's designed to change. Every time you repeat a habit, your brain strengthens the connection that supports it. But when you stop feeding that connection, when you stop repeating the old behavior, the wiring weakens. And when you replace it with something new, your brain builds a fresh pathway. That's neuroplasticity, your built-in system for transformation. You literally have the ability to reprogram your mind, but you can't just stop a bad habit, you have to replace it. If you remove a behavior without replacing it, you leave an empty space, and your brain hates a vacuum. It will rush to fill that space with something familiar, even if that thing is harmful. So if you want to stop scrolling endlessly, replace it with reading. If you want to stop procrastinating, replace it with a 2-minute rule. Just start. If you want to stop doubting yourself, replace it with one small act of courage every single day. Don't fight your old habits, redirect their energy. This is where most people get stuck. They try to eliminate what's not working, but they don't create something stronger to replace it. The key isn't to fight your old self. It's to build a new one so powerful that the old habits have no room to survive. That's how real change sticks. You're not just stopping bad behaviors, you're building a better identity. And when you start to see yourself differently, everything else follows. Because behavior follows identity. You can't act like a disciplined person until you start believing you are one. You can't act like a confident person until you start seeing yourself as one. The shift begins inside. It starts with a new story, a new narrative about who you are and what you're capable of. You don't need to become someone else. You need to return to the version of yourself that existed before fear and failure took the wheel. Rewiring your ledger also means changing your environment. You can't grow in the same soil that made you stagnant. If you want to evolve, you have to surround yourself with people, places, and habits that support your new direction. Your environment should remind you of your goals, not your past. Every cue around you, your space, your schedule, your routine, should point toward the future you're building. And understand this: rewiring doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, not an event. You'll have setbacks. You'll fall into old habits. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you're rewiring. Every time you choose the new behavior instead of the old one, even once, you're strengthening the new pattern. It's like building muscle. Repetition creates strength. So celebrate progress, not perfection. At some point, something beautiful begins to happen. The things that once felt difficult start to feel natural. The habits that once required discipline begin to flow. That's when you know your ledger has shifted. You're no longer trying to force change. You're living it. You're not fighting your old habits anymore because they no longer belong to you. You've become someone different, not because life changed, but because you did. And the truth is, this ability to rewire, to reinvent, to rebuild, it's the ultimate superpower. It means no matter where you've been or how many times you've fallen, you can start again right now. You can choose a new direction, a new habit, a new identity. You can turn every debit into a deposit, every failure into a foundation, every mistake into momentum. Because no matter your past, your ledger can change today. At the end of the day, success isn't about how much money you make, how many followers you have, or how much recognition you get. All of that fades. What lasts, what truly defines a life well lived, is the wealth of your character. Because success without integrity, without discipline, without emotional strength is just an illusion. It's a house built on sand. Real success is built from the inside out. It starts with who you are when no one's watching, with how you treat people who can do nothing for you, with the way you carry yourself through both triumph and trial. That's the true currency of greatness. When your daily habits start aligning with your values, you become powerful in a way the world can't measure. You're no longer chasing validation, you're living from conviction. You're no longer looking for external rewards because your fulfillment is internal. That's what happens when your ledger becomes a reflection of your true self. Every deposit you make isn't just building results, it's building integrity. Too many people spend their lives chasing outcomes instead of developing character. They want to achieve without becoming. They want to arrive without evolving. But success, real success, is something you earn by who you become in the process. Because the habits that build wealth in your bank account are the same ones that build wealth in your spirit: consistency, humility, resilience, gratitude. When you cultivate those, your results will take care of themselves. It's not what you get that makes you successful, it's who you become. You can lose everything you've built: the titles, the trophies, the income, But if you've built strength inside, you can rebuild it all. That's why character matters more than circumstance. Circumstance can change in a second, but character is the foundation that endures. Building that kind of inner wealth isn't glamorous. It happens in quiet moments when you choose discipline over distraction, honesty over comfort, service over selfishness. It happens when you make deposits of patience, humility, and kindness into your ledger even when no one notices. Because it's not about being perfect, it's about being real, consistently real. There's a kind of peace that comes from knowing you're living in alignment, when your actions match your words, when your habits reflect your principles, when you don't have to pretend to be someone else to feel valuable. That's freedom. And it's rare because the world will constantly try to pull you into comparison, into proving yourself, into chasing more. But the more you chase what's outside, the emptier you feel inside. You feel that emptiness not by achieving more, but by becoming more. The wealth of character shows up in how you handle adversity. Anyone can be positive when things are easy, but it's in the storms where your true ledger gets revealed. Do you panic or persevere? Do you complain or create solutions? Do you let fear lead you or do you rise above it? Life will test your habits. It will test your patience, your resolve, your faith. And those moments, the hard ones, are when your true wealth is either proven or exposed. Character is also about how you treat people. You can't build a fulfilling life by stepping over others. True strength doesn't need to dominate. It lifts, it builds, it serves. Every time you encourage someone, forgive someone, help someone, you're making deposits that money could never buy. Because when you lead with compassion, when you give more than you take, life has a way of multiplying those returns in ways you can't measure. And that's the beauty of this habit ledger. It doesn't just track what you do. It reveals who you are. Every deposit of discipline, honesty, or kindness shapes your character. Every debit of anger, ego, or apathy weakens it. You can't fake this balance sheet. You can't hide from it. It's always reflecting back the truth about how you live. And that truth determines not just your success, but your fulfillment. Fulfillment comes from contribution. It comes from growth. It comes from knowing you've lived with purpose, not just for yourself, but for something bigger than you. When you reach a point where your daily habits are driven by meaning instead of survival, you've entered a new level of success. That's where joy lives. That's where peace lives. That's where real wealth lives. Every deposit of gratitude adds value to your life. Every act of integrity strengthens your foundation. Every moment you stay true to what's right, even when it costs you, builds unshakable confidence. You stop needing the world's approval because you already have your own. That's what emotional wealth looks like, being rich in peace, in love, in authenticity. And when you live that way, you don't just change your own life, you start influencing others. People feel your energy. They see your consistency. You become someone others can trust, someone who leads not with words, but with example. That's legacy. Legacy isn't about what you leave behind. It's about what you live right now in every action, every decision, every interaction. So don't measure your life by what you accumulate. Measure it by what you contribute. Don't count your success by what you've achieved. Count it by how deeply you've grown. Because at the end of it all, when everything external fades, the only thing that remains is who you've become through it all. Because true success isn't measured in wealth or status. It's measured in the wealth of your character, and that's the ultimate return.